Welcome to SP News and Knowledge, your own YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss his first flight part 2, Black Aeroplane. So without any delay, let's start our topic. Have you ever been lost and found help in the most unexpected way? Picture this, a lone pilot sailing through the tranquil night sky, commanding his trusty airplane, the Dakota, from the city of love, Paris, to the heart of England. The time? 1:30 in the morning. The stars are his companions, scattered like diamonds across the velvet sky, the moon casting a gentle glow from behind. As he guides his Dakota across the French landscape, his thoughts wander to his loved ones waiting for him at home, the respite of a holiday, and the comforting promise of a hearty English breakfast. Below him, the twinkling lights of a bustling city, a beacon in the darkness. He reaches out to Paris Control, establishing his coordinates, his path, his destination. All seems well as he turns west, the final fuel tank of his Dakota promising a safe journey home. And just as he thought his journey would be as smooth as silk, he saw them, huge black mountain-like clouds. The clouds loomed ominously, a stark contrast to the serene journey so far. A vast expanse of dark mountainous clouds stretched out before our pilot. His destination lay on the other side, but the menacing cloudscape posed a formidable barrier. The fuel gauge of his trusty Dakota was dipping dangerously low, leaving him with a conundrum. To circumnavigate the tempest would mean a longer journey, and his fuel reserves were not up to the task. His mind teetered on the edge of decision. Risk the storm or risk running out of fuel? He pondered, his thoughts punctuated by the rhythmic hum of the Dakota's propellers. His heart yearned for home, the familiar taste of an English breakfast, the comfort of his family. It was this longing that tipped the scales. With a determined set to his jaw, he decided to brave the storm. As he steered the Dakota into the brooding clouds, a chill ran down his spine. The world outside his cockpit window was swallowed by an inky blackness, leaving him alone with his thoughts and the deafening silence of the storm. His instruments, his lifeline to the world, one by one succumbed to the storm's wrath. The compass spun wildly. The radio fell eerily silent, each instrument going dark, leaving him blind in the storm. Our pilot was lost, swallowed by an ocean of black clouds. He reached out for the radio, desperation creeping into his voice as he called out into the void, but his pleas were met with silence. The storm had cut him off from the world. He was alone, or so he thought. And just when he thought he was alone in this chaos, he saw it, another airplane. A beacon of hope in the storm, a companion in the dark. The sight of the other aircraft brought a glimmer of relief to his eyes. But as he looked closer, he noticed something odd. The aircraft's wings were unlit, a ghostly specter in the storm. Despite this, he decided to follow the mysterious aircraft, his heart pounding in his chest as he wondered what lay ahead. In the midst of the storm, another airplane appeared, its wings unlit and its pilot waving him to follow. Can you imagine the relief that washed over our pilot at this moment? In the middle of a storm, with his compass spinning wildly and his radio dead, another airplane appeared like a beacon in the darkness. This was no ordinary airplane, however. Its wings were unlit, and the pilot was signaling him to follow. It was a sight that would have been surreal under the best of circumstances. In the middle of a storm, it was nothing short of miraculous. Our pilot, ever the pragmatist, didn't dwell on the strangeness of the situation. He had a more pressing concern. His fuel was running perilously low. The old Dakota was a sturdy plane, but she couldn't fly on fumes. Despite his dwindling fuel reserves, he decided to follow the mysterious airplane. It was a gamble, but in the face of the alternative, getting lost in the storm, it was a gamble he was willing to take. For what felt like an eternity, he followed the mysterious airplane through the storm. Every minute that passed was a minute closer to running out of fuel. The tension was palpable. Yet he kept his eyes on the unlit plane, trusting in the unseen pilot to guide him through the storm. The minutes ticked by, each one more agonizing than the last. Just as he was about to give up hope, he saw them. 2 long straight lines stretching out before him. He had reached the airport. Against all odds, He had made it. The relief was overwhelming, but it was tinged with confusion. Where was the other plane? He looked around, but the mysterious airplane was nowhere to be found. It had vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. As his fuel reached its end, he saw them, two long straight lines. He had reached the airport. With a racing heart and a sigh of relief, our pilot landed safely, expecting to meet his mysterious guide. His eyes scanned the runway, the tarmac, the entire airfield, but there was no sign of the plane he had been following. Confusion etched deep lines on his face. Where could the airplane have gone? It was as though it had vanished into thin air, as swiftly and silently as it had appeared. His heart pounded in his chest as he made his way to the control center, every step echoing his mounting uncertainty. A woman, the voice of the Paris control, greeted him. Her calm demeanor was a stark contrast to the storm he had just survived. He asked her about the other airplane, the one he'd followed out of the storm, the one that guided him home when all hope seemed lost. The woman looked at him, her eyes filled with surprise. No other airplane was in the sky tonight, she said. Every word hit him like a thunderbolt. You were the only one brave enough or perhaps foolish enough to fly in such weather. Her words hung in the air, leaving a chilling silence. Our pilot stood there stunned. No other airplane? But he was sure he had seen it, followed it. He had seen the figure in the cockpit waving him on. It was not a figment of his imagination. It couldn't be. Yet the control center's radar had picked up only his Dakota, nothing more. His mind raced, trying to piece together the puzzle. He replayed the night's events, searching for an explanation. But the more he thought about it, the more inexplicable it became. He was alone in the storm, without a functioning compass or radio, with fuel running dangerously low. Yet he had made it, guided by a plane that supposedly didn't exist. Yet he knew he hadn't been alone in the storm. So who was his unseen savior? The question lingered in his mind. Who was the man in the unlit airplane who led him safely to the airport? The mystery of the black airplane was as dark and vast as the stormy clouds our pilot had just navigated. This wasn't just any regular aircraft. It was a phantom plane. A silhouette in the tempest, its wings unlit, its presence untraceable. Yet it was this enigmatic aircraft that guided our pilot through the storm, a beacon of safety in the midst of chaos. Our pilot had been left bewildered, his relief mingled with curiosity. Who was this mysterious companion who had appeared in his hour of need? Was it a fellow pilot braving the same storm, or something more? Something otherworldly, perhaps? The questions swirled in his mind like the storm clouds he had just escaped. The unlit wings of the black airplane were a puzzling detail. Aviation regulations require all aircraft to have visible lights to ensure their visibility. So why was this plane dark? Was it a technical glitch, or was it intentional? And if it was intentional, what was the purpose? The pilot's gratitude towards his unknown savior was immeasurable. He had been on the brink of a disaster, lost in a sea of black clouds with failing instruments and dwindling fuel. Yet this mysterious figure had guided him through the storm, leading him to the safety of the runway, saving not just his aircraft, but his life. His curiosity led him to the control center, where he sought answers about the other aircraft. But the woman's response left him with more questions. She confirmed that no other airplane had been flying that night. The radar screens had shown only one blip, his Dakota. This revelation added another layer to the mystery. If no other planes were in the sky, then who was in the black airplane? Was it a ghost plane, a figment of his imagination, or a manifestation of his desperate hope? Or was it something else entirely, something that defied explanation? The pilot couldn't shake off the mystery. It gnawed at him, keeping him awake at night. He replayed the events over and over again, trying to make sense of what had happened. But no matter how much he pondered, the mystery of the black airplane remained unsolved. His life had been saved by a phantom, a shadow in the storm, an enigma wrapped in the cloak of the night. He may never know who his savior was or why they appeared when they did, but one thing was clear. In his darkest hour, when all hope seemed lost, an unexpected aid had arrived, guiding him safely home. And so, the mystery of the black airplane remains, a beacon of unexpected help in the darkest of times.